Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pro-Life Praise with Evangelist Alveda King. Today, we're going to talk about life and love around the world with a very special guest. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Pro-Life Praise with Alveda King, Evangelist Alveda King. We started out as Pro-Life Praise variety show right when COVID was breaking in 2020. And we do feature conversation, music, artistic expressions, and all of that, but it's all for the sake of the sanctity of life. Today, we are going to have a very special guest. I'll introduce him in a moment. But first, can you sign on and type your questions? Let me know where you are. And especially, we're having an international focus today. So if you're from around the world, we'd like to hear that too. So type in your questions, type in where you are, say hi. Now, our very special guest, Mr. Bob Lalonde, is Director of International Relations with Priest for Life. You can reach Bob at priestforlife.org/international/IGO.ASPS. Now, I'm going to ask Bob to explain to you how he defends the sanctity of life around the world, and he does a very good job. He and Marie Smith have invited me through their work to go to places around the world as well. I've traveled to Israel by myself, Trinidad, and I went to Jamaica. Bob arranged that, and London, UK, Spain, Rome. Well, Bob will tell you all about it in a minute. However, Bob, tell me, what do you do as international director? Well, Director of International Relations with Priest for Life. What does that entail?
Well, first, thank you, Alveda, for having me. You and I have traveled a lot together, and I've enjoyed all the time that we've spent in the various countries, and you're so well received. Your genuineness just exudes, and people love you wherever you go. So it's always a pleasure to be with you and to spend time with you. But what I do at Priest for Life is, on the international side, is particularly focused at the United Nations, where a lot of policies are decided that affect the entire world, and also at the Organization of American States. So that's more for the Latin American part and for Canada and some Caribbean countries as well. So Priests for Life has been involved at the United Nations for close to 20 years now.
And can you explain what an NGO means? Priests for Life is an NGO, and you're directing and heading up all of that. So tell us, what is an NGO?
Yeah, exactly. It's a non-governmental organization. So we have status at the United Nations. So there are states, and then there are UN entities, and then there are NGOs that are involved. So there are thousands of them, really, from around the world. And the United Nations is based in New York, also in Geneva and in other places. So we work particularly out of the offices in New York. So obviously, because of COVID, things have changed and everything's gone virtual. But we've had a presence at the United Nations for almost 20 years. And only in the last year did we get accepted into the Organization of American States. So we have a similar role to play there. So we get a chance to speak on policy, to be heard, to be voiced, and to weigh in on issues. So
do you submit papers too, sometimes position papers or things that go into the record?
Absolutely. So for instance, and in the coming week is the Commission on the Status of Women. So it's something that's held every year, has been this is the 65th session, I think. And so we have a statement that we've prepared and submitted, and is being published in several languages. It's accepted by the UN. So this is all about gender violence, this particular session. And so we talk about violence to the unborn, and particularly the girl child. So given it's the status of women. So we're saying that basically violence against women begins even in the womb. So if you're willing to take the life of an unborn baby girl, it doesn't get any better here on in. So we
Right.
work at that level, working with different heads of states and with delegations, and try to influence policy and get better outcomes is what it amounts
Now,
to.
didn't you take me to that conference one year and I spoke on the floor of the UN one
Oh,
time?
we sure did. So we had you there. It was I think it was several years ago anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But we were also running a little bit late. So you had to be rushed in, and the security guard, when I explained to him that you were the niece of Martin Luther King, just sort of whisked you past all the security through the bowels of the UN right into the meeting room where you were able to give your presentation.
I never imagined that I would have done anything like that. And the same thing happens. But before I even ask you to let's go down memory lane with some of the work that we have done and what you're doing today and why it's so important, because now we have a new administration. But you've been there through several administrations.
Yeah.
And you've been there when the administration, when I say administration, the leaders of the government, president, vice president, Congress, all that. And so sometimes they are for life and sometimes they are not for life.
Yeah.
But it's very important for Priests for Life to be on the scene in every administration, getting these messages out, getting these documents entered into the record. And I want you to answer this question. And don't tell me too much, because then you'll have to shoot me, and I like living. Don't tell everything, please. But how difficult is it sometimes when the tides turn and then you have to fight harder, Bob? How hard is that?
Well, we're going through that right now. And Father Frank Pavone had started the International years ago. His main focus is, as you know, obviously in the United States. But maybe because of his work at the Council for the Family or even in the Academy for Life in Rome, he's seen throughout the world the need for pro-life work. So we still do that. But under this new administration, it's just a complete, changeover. So
Like
now
90.
we're struggling on the outside trying to get in. Whereas under President Trump, and even to be honest, under some other Republican administrations, it wasn't always so rosy, particularly on the human life issues. President Trump, on the other hand, moved it to the forefront, made it clear that abortion was not a right at the United Nations, set the platform for us, and including the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and the various ambassadors involved. It was really impressive to see the change that took place. And had we had another 4 years, I think it would almost be irreversible. But it's been a very quick snapback under Biden, and so we're starting to already see the changes taking place. So it's going to be a much more difficult hoe, so to speak, to get up there again. But the pro-life groups have always been resilient and strong-minded and persistent. They know why they're doing this work. They're very dedicated to it. So when the wind's blowing our way, great. And when it's not, we keep forcing ahead anyway.
Now, how is international travel with COVID right now? Have you been over back to Rome and different places at all?
Interesting that I kind of left on the wave of COVID, because I left Rome in February last year, just before we started seeing cases in Italy and mounting, and it was getting worse. And then I came to the United Nations, where there was a lot of concern, and then over to the Organization of American States, where there was a lot of concern, and then everything shut down. So no, everything's gone virtual, and so a lot of the work is still taking place, and they're still having committee meetings. It's harder, no doubt about it, but things are still happening, and sometimes they're being done in secret in the middle of the night kind of thing, and we see that sometimes in Congress, and we're not too happy about that. So it's much better to have that face-to-face interaction, and I'm looking forward to getting back, hopefully in April when things start to open up again. But no
Well,
travel since.
it's interesting that you would say that things are done in secret, but you remember in the Bible, Nicodemus had to go and hide up in a tree because he didn't want his friends to know. But it was a very effective visit with Jesus, and Jesus came to his house. And then Gideon had to go and do some of his work at night for the same reason. So just get the work done, Bob. That's what we would say. I'd like to really invite people. Sign in. Tell me honestly. Type in where you are. Say hi. And if you have any questions for Bob, now is the time to ask those questions. And you can get him at www.priestforlife.org/international. That's very, very important. I want to take a moment, and Bob, and just do a little break for the Priest for Life store and alvedaking.com store. And you can get some of our books there. The Spirit of a Dream, you can get at alvedaking.com. Zach, Spirit of a Dream, you got that little picture of it so you can see what it looks like. So the Spirit of a Dream at alvedaking.com, and you can order a signed copy there. And over at priestforlife.org in the store, you can get King Rules, and we're not colorblind. So there's so many other items in that store. So please visit the store, please order, and check us out over at the store. Now, I would like, Bob, for you to see the trailer. I don't know if you've seen the film yet, Roe v. Wade.
No.
But we're going to share the trailer to that movie. It's the movie. I'm an executive producer, and I portrayed Guthrie Jefferson, the mother of Dr. Mildred Fay Jefferson, in the movie. And she is Mildred Jefferson, Dr. Jefferson. She's passed away now, but the first African-American woman, Negro woman, she was called during that time, to graduate from Harvard Medical School.
Right.
And she was so pro-life that she also helped to found the March for Life. Let's look at that trailer.
Roe v. Wade, in the grand scheme of things, is not that important.
I understand the importance that people attach to the Roe v. Wade decision.
Real history of the 1973 Roe v. Wade abortion decision.
The Senate has just confirmed.
Brett Kavanaugh is officially confirmed.
That will flip the decision.
We have been in our second civil war for over 50 years now.
A bunch of disorganized men are going to rid this country of abortion restriction.
Doctors must protect life from the point of conception.
Are you sure you want to do this?
You're a liar. You did this. You led me down this path. You didn't want them.
You seen the post this morning?
I saw it.
Idiot. There's a leak.
They've got Hollywood on their side.
This is a conspiracy.
Today, my mommy killed me.
We found a girl in Texas. We'll give her a pseudonym. Call her Jane Roe.
We found the right pregnant girl and the lawyers we could control.
When you see a kid out of law school get to argue to the highest court in Texas,
we want to rally behind the women's movement to get the TV media on board.
What he's trying to say is I am the first Negro woman to graduate Harvard Medical.
Faith in God, respect for his law.
You should join us. I promise you'd have more freedom.
But we weren't Jewish, so we didn't say anything. And then they came after the mentally deficient. But we weren't deficient, so we did nothing. And now they're coming after the unborn. And so you're gonna do nothing?
It's God's duty to forgive.
It's ours to rule the law.
You're changing your vote because your family found out. Or was it the media?
If we don't sort this out, fur will fly today.
You were trying to control this, Warren, old buddy. That is completely unethical.
In the matter of Roe v. Wade, I want the case re-argued.
So you want to enslave women?
I gotta go before I blow a gasket. We got the majority.
We're gonna win.
This is beyond the authority of the Supreme Court.
We are the law of the land.
These girls should not be put through the pregnancy and should be entitled to an abortion.
The true silent minority. Who is speaking for these children?
We will hear arguments in Roe against Wade.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, isn't that something? So, and Bob, I want to ask you this question. It's probably the truth, but I want your perspective on it. Did the rest of the world follow America? Did 1973 do a whole lot of stuff around the globe?
Oh,
Life and love were under attack with the act of abortion because of 1973. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've seen that. I've had the opportunity to travel the world too, you know, from Nigeria, Kenya, Philippines, Russia, you know, Korea, you name it. I've been to a lot of these places, and as goes the United States, so goes the rest of the world to a very large extent, and they followed in lockstep on abortion. And it's a genie that once unleashed out of the bottle, really tough to get it back in, as we've discovered in this country. So devastating effect, but a powerful movie. I mean, it really just to see the trailer. It's very enticing. When does it come out?
Well, now it premiered last Friday in Orlando at CPAC,
yeah.
and we've got some private screenings going on for the rest of the month, and then it'll come out live streaming. And I don't know if that's going to be like on Amazon or where, but usually wherever movies stream, it will be streaming live. So
get it out quickly before they cancel it, right?
That's it. Go to Roe v. Wade movie and just check it out. That's true.
The cancel culture is a big problem. So yeah. Great.
I need to ask Zach, and I don't know if he can help with this, but usually the chat room is open, and I just sent a chat, and my chat didn't pop up. So I'm wondering if people are putting chats in, but I can't see them on the screen, and I don't know what changes that to make it now. Oh, I see it now. Is this playing now? Roe v. Wade, the movie, right now is playing privately. Only the trailer is, but in April, it's going to premiere, and it'll be available streaming. So if you had a question before and I didn't see it, go ahead and put your questions in the chat box, and we'll try to keep asking those as we finish up the show. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but there's something that I love your perspectives, Bob, because you've been there. And I did want to mention, if I leave off some, I went to Trinidad under recommendation of Priests for Life and Jamaica during the Obama administration, and explained to the people that they should not be taking foreign aid that insists that they accept abortion.
Right.
Foreign aid should not have anything to do. We can send you food, we can send you help, we can do education with you, but we should not insist that you accept abortion as part of that package, Depo-Provera shots and all that kind of stuff. So that was a lot of the work that I've been doing with you.
Trump made sure that happened too.
He really worked hard and made sure. You made sure that we were represented in Nigeria, the UK, London, Spain, Ireland, Rome, the UN. So we've done all of this, and some of those reports are still at Bob's website. So make sure you get over there too. I have to look on it. I have it written down here, priestforlife.org/international. So make sure you visit and see some of these reports in international. Marie Smith does a report every month. Is it PNCI? What is it?
It is pncius.org. And Marie has the best information. If you're interested in anything international regarding abortion, human life, you really want to get to that site. It's all for parliamentarians who consult that. She has a tremendous influence all around the world. Marie's been on Holy See delegations at the United Nations, speaks in Rome and in other countries as well. So she's a big part of our operation for getting the word out and monitoring what's taking place all around the world. And it's a monthly newsletter, and you can get that at that email, at that address. So by all means, take a look. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. Now we're going to do the variety show portion now, and we're going to play a song. I'm actually singing "This Is My Father's World," and let's just hear that very briefly. Let's share that, and we'll take your questions right after if you have some. Go ahead, please.
This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world, I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, his hands of wonders wrought. This is my Father's world, the birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily bright, declare their Maker's praise. This is my Father's
at the end of every day. See, we forget sometimes,
Yeah.
and things can be so bad and so terrible. We forget that the whole earth is filled with the glory of God. And one thing I learned to do, there's a little saying, it's about a starfish, and depending on who tells it, there's an old man and a little boy, and they're walking on the seashore. So one of them is walking up and down the seashore, and the starfish would wash out of the ocean onto the sand, and they were dying and drying up. And one would pick it up and throw the starfish back. So the other one comes and says, "Why are you wasting your time? You can't save all the starfish." And the one who's rescuing them says, "Save that one. Save that one." So why do we work so hard? We overcome evil with good. When we see bad things happen, then the first thing we really want to do is to go out and do some good things. So usually if something bad is going on with me, I really try to find 3 and 4 really good things to do. My pastor, Alan McNair at Believers Bible Christian Church, when people weren't tithing and giving it looked like that was nothing to do, he'd go buy a can of whitewash paint, start repainting the walls of the church. And people would see it, they'd either feel bad or want to help or do something, and before you know it, things started happening again. So is that kind of, do you find that? Because you have to be consistent, no matter what our administration here in America is or isn't. So how do you keep doing the work, keeping your joy and your hope, Bob? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And first of all, that song was very uplifting, and so I enjoyed listening to that. It's really, you don't try to save 1 million children from abortion, right? You try to save one if you can, and meeting, a person and just being kind to them. And hopefully if they see the kindness, it's infectious, right? And it spreads. And I've been blessed to be with so many people around the world who truly love children, love the women who are having the children and the parents. And so they're so supportive. So whether it ends up people adopting kids who are unwanted, I had the opportunity to be in China, and in China they had a one-child policy. You know all about that, and so the preference there is for a son. So if a daughter is born, it's not so good. So I went to an orphanage, and the only kids in the orphanages were girls, and one albino boy who would have been considered a defect. So you see this, the hurt and the pain, but then you see the family willing to adopt, and another family, from overseas. So even if it's not within that culture, another culture. So if we do one thing at a time and build, one life at a time and allow one life to live at a time, I think it all moves forward, and God takes care of everything else. So we just have to do our part.
And we continue to do our part. And I want to say, I may never have said this to you before, but you honestly are one of the kindest people I know. And I want to thank your wife and your family too, because they give you to us so you can travel all over and do all this stuff. Now, you don't have to travel as much now. We learned how to Zoom and do all of that, but I know you're still very, very busy. So I know Janet Morana is going to have you on Just Ask Janet. And there are just so many other things that you should do, folks, to tune in to hear what Bob does, how your part helps. If you join us, join the movement now today at priestsforlife.org, civilrightsfortheunborn.org. You can make a difference too. And so, Bob, I really want to thank you for being a guest on the show today. And you want to say something else in about 30 seconds? Go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, like I said, it was just a real thrill to be with you. And you've done so much. Even when I was in Nigeria, you did a video for us, and it went from village to village in Nigeria and made such a tremendous impact on people. So even if you can't be physically present, you can do it through a video, and that reaches people, just as Father Frank, who stays more in the States, but his videos go around the world, and people are inspired by them and called to action. So we should all keep doing what we're doing in our homes and our families, keep moving things forward, and God is in charge, and we just have to keep following.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
Come
you.
back and join us every Wednesday at 3:30, and I think we re-air in the evening on Wednesdays. See you next week, friends. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.